So every Wednesday on this channel, we look at various different things we can do with meditation. Maybe you've never tried meditation before, and you're like, I just want to relax a little bit. We're going to do some of that, and then we're going to focus on a specific topic, right? And weave in how meditation can help us with this topic, right? So whether you are meditating your whole life or you've never done it before, this is going to be a great introduction for you. This topic actually in particular, I think, is really good for those that are new. So the topic that we're going to focus on today is taking back control of your thoughts, right? So we'll talk about, why does it feel like your mind is kind of doing whatever it wants, right? Your mind's like, hey, worry about this thing. And then we're worrying about it. Hey, get upset about the thing that happened last week. And then we don't want to, but our mind is pulling us in that direction. So we're going to look at that a little bit. And we're going to talk a little bit about mental habits, right? And how they might, and how they relate to this. And then we're going to look at 3 important steps that I think are important for starting to learn how to take back control of your thoughts, which is a huge aspect of meditation, being able to dictate what you are focusing on moment to moment. Cool? And then you're probably like, well, that's all well and good, but I don't know how to meditate. So we're going to start with that. We're going to start with the basics of meditation, right? And then we'll do a very short breathing meditation. It's a good introduction. And then we will talk about our topic. If you are new, please ask questions. Take advantage of the fact that I'm live and in person and not a pre-made video that cannot respond to your questions. So if you at any point feel like you don't understand something that I was saying, or maybe I wasn't clear about it, just tell me. Interrupt me immediately and I will answer your question. All right? Don't be afraid to do that. You can just type in the chat. And if you're not comfortable doing that, I'll put my email in the chat later, and you can email me any questions that come up when you're trying to do this on your own. Okay, cool. So when we first think about meditation, right, when we first hear that word, maybe we probably have heard the word before. What comes to mind? Most often, relaxation or zoning out, de-stressing, right? These are all pretty good descriptors, right? And meditation is excellent at doing this. It is excellent at relaxing your mind. But how? How does it do that? That's something that when I first started exploring meditation and training in it, it was something that wasn't always clear to me. It's not something that's always taught. You got to kind of look a little deeper at what's going on. But I think it's really important to understand how meditation is working. How is meditation relaxing you? So the meditation is not just pulling relaxation out of thin air, right? Meditation doesn't equal relaxation. What meditation does is it trains your mind to become familiar with something. Yeah, it's a weird definition, right? But if we think about some things we're super familiar with, we can see how important training our mind to be familiar with things can be, right? So what about, I don't know. I usually do tying my shoe. That's a kind of a fun one, right? So let's do tying your shoe. Right now, you can probably tie your shoe pretty easily. If I were to ask you to do that, you'd probably be like, I don't know why this guy's asking me to do that, but I'll go ahead and tie my shoe, and you wouldn't have really too much of a problem doing it. In fact, you could probably do it with your eyes closed or on a roller coaster or something crazy like that, right? You could say that tying your shoe comes naturally to you, right? Now, when you were a little kid, that was not the case, right? There was a point in your life where not only you didn't even know what tying your shoe was. And then when somebody explained it to you, you're like, I don't think I'll ever figure this one out. Right? It was very difficult. Right? But what happened between then and now? Practice, right? Essentially, through repetition, day by day, right? We tie our shoe each day, and now the loops are looking a little better each time. And eventually, we get to the point where our body, our mind, everything about us understands the mechanics that are needed to tie our shoe. We are very familiar with tying our shoe, right? And the result is that activity starts to flow a little bit more naturally, right? So the same is true for anything that you learn, including mental habits, which is what generally we focus on with meditation. So things like anger. This is a good one. Hey, Rob. Anger is a great example here of how familiarization plays a role in how easily things kind of come to us. We don't have to try to get angry, right? Somebody says something that we don't like, boom, angry. We're not saying, oh, hold on a second, I just really need to build up some anger so I can get angry. No, happens instantaneously. Very familiar. Our mind is very familiar with getting angry. Doesn't mean we're an angry person. We just had some practice doing it, and so our mind is accustomed to it. What about patience? Not really coming as naturally, I would say, right? At least for me, I have to try hard to be patient, especially in situations that normally would make me angry. Because in the seesaw of anger versus patience, I'm a little more well-practiced, well-versed in getting annoyed, right? Getting frustrated, getting angry, right? But we can tilt the seesaw, right? Just as we've become familiar with one thing, we can become familiar with anything that we want. And this is the concept of what meditation can provide. So in terms of how meditation relaxes you, we are teaching our mind to connect with this relaxation that is in us, right? It's not, we are a relaxed person. It shows itself from time to time. And so meditation is teaching you to kind of connect with that for the purpose of it becoming more familiar to you. Hey guys, thanks for coming. I appreciate it. So, that's why I always kind of talk about meditation and familiarity, because it's really the same thing. You can think of those words as almost interchangeable, right? So how do we go about doing this? Well, our first step is to start to become a little bit more proficient at clearing away all the clutter in our mind. And by that, I mean all the worries, distractions, anything, all the stimulation that's kind of pulling our mind in different directions. We can start our kind of journey into meditation by learning how to pacify our mind a little bit, right? It's similar if you think about like a mirror, right? Let's say you go out and you buy a brand new mirror. You're very excited about it. And you come home and you look in the mirror, you're like, wow, that's a good looking mirror. There's a smudge on it. I can see myself perfectly. It's almost as if it's not a mirror at all, right? It's just perfect, right? Now, over time, you're using the sink and splashing water, your hair gets on it and it gets dirty, right? Over time, it gets dirty. And when the mirror's dirtier, you can't see the reflection as easily, right? So our mind is like this. Our mind by default is like this very clean mirror, right? We can think about our problems very clearly, right? We're thinking objectively about things. We're calm. We're not flying off the handle. But over time, our mind can get a little dirty, just like the mirror gets dirty. Our mind can get a little cluttered with thoughts, and it makes it hard for us to see that reflection clearly. It makes it hard for us to access this kind of peacefulness. It's in there. It's always in there. It's just being blocked by some of the distractions that seem to be at the forefront of your mind day to day. So we want to kind of clean the mirror a little bit. And the way that we're going to do that is with something called single-pointed concentration. Fancy, very fancy phrase. Really all it means is focusing on one thing, right? Making a choice. I'm going to focus on this one thing. And then when I notice that I'm not focused on it, I'm going to bring my attention back. So we are not multitasking. Meditation is kind of like the antithesis of multitasking. And we're pretty familiar with multitasking. We do that all day long. And multitasking serves its purpose, right? We're very good for getting our worldly tasks done efficiently, but not always the best for maintaining a very calm, relaxed state. Sometimes we can see that. We try to do a bunch of things at once, and now we're just like all over the place, right? So we are going to focus so exclusively on one thing, in this case, our breath, breathing meditation. We're going to focus so exclusively on our breath that there's not going to be much room for anything else. All those other thoughts and worries and distractions, they're going to start to fade a little bit into the background. Very similar if you've ever been in the zone. Athletes, pretty familiar with this kind of a feeling, or even if you've ever experienced this kind of in the zone flow state, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, at work, right? We're working on a project. What happens? Lose track of time. People call our name. We don't hear it. All the noises that are normally like, oh man, it's so loud in here. Oh, that person's chewing carrots very loudly or something, right? It's almost like they kind of disappear. They're still there, right? But they're kind of masked. They're gone, right? It seems as if they're gone through focus, concentration. So we're going to start to train in this purposeful concentration. And we are going to use our breath. Like I mentioned, it's called breathing meditation. You probably have heard of it before. It's pretty common entry point into meditation. And the reason, in my opinion, that it's so good to use your breath is your breath is always with you, right? I hope. Otherwise, you got bigger problems than whatever you're here for. So if you become really proficient at using your breath as this kind of relaxation focal point, man, it starts to make you feel like you can do this whenever you need to, which is the case. And it's a huge takeaway of meditation. You do not need perfect quiet. You do not need to retreat to a mountaintop. You do not need to be alone from your friends. You don't need to do any of those things. All you need is just a little bit of practice and your breath, and you can learn to relax your mind a little bit. Cool? So let's do it. We're going to do a short breathing meditation, and it's going to be about 5 minutes. Maybe you're sitting there, you're like, I thought you had to meditate for an hour in order for it to do anything. No, it's really not the case at all. What's really important is consistency, right? If you think about tying our shoe, if someone taught you, you never learned about tying your shoe, and then somebody was like, oh, tie your shoe for 2 hours, right? And then don't do it for 3 months, it probably wouldn't stick, So less important is the amount of time we're meditating per session. More important is how consistently we're doing it. We want to try to get it in every day if possible, right? So we're going to do about a 5-minute breathing meditation. Instructionally, pretty simple. You're just going to follow along with what I'm saying. I'm going to guide us, and we are going to choose to focus single-pointedly on our breath. Pay attention to notice whenever our mind is pulling us in a different direction, and then we're going to bring our attention back. That process is the training in meditation. Cool? All right. Sit comfortably. There is no perfect seating arrangement. Sometimes you think, I got to sit on a cushion on the floor. No, only sit on a cushion on the floor if that is very comfortable to you. It's important to be physically comfortable because if you are not physically comfortable, you will be focusing exclusively on how uncomfortable you are instead of your breath, which is what we're trying to do. So chair's fine. If you like sitting on the floor, that's fine. You can even lay down. All of it is fine. And you can go ahead and close your eyes, and I'm going to guide us through about a 5-minute breathing meditation. Okay. Whenever we start a meditation, first thing we always do, check in with ourselves. Ask yourself, how am I feeling right now, in this exact moment? Happy, sad, tired, energetic. Doesn't matter. We're not doing anything about it. We're just noticing. This is a very important skill to cultivate. It's called mindfulness, an active awareness of your thoughts for the purpose of being able to respond to those thoughts skillfully. So just take a moment. Ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? And having done that, you can now turn your full attention to your breath. Make a choice. Choose to focus single-pointedly on breathing in and out, gently, naturally. You do not need to take big, deep breaths. You do not need to forcefully exhale the air. Just breathe as you normally would. In, out. As you begin to relax a little bit into your chair or cushion, single-pointedly focused on each moment of your breath, following the air as it enters your nose, sits, and exits. A moment-to-moment awareness of your breath, in, out, gently, naturally. At some point, you may notice your attention has drifted a bit. Maybe you're thinking about something that happened earlier in the day. Maybe you're thinking about something that's coming up later after this class. Whenever you notice that this has happened, just gently and intentionally guide your focus back to breathing. Move your attention to breathing in and out. Gentle, natural breaths. Keep bringing your attention back to your breath as many times as you need to. This process of choosing to focus single-pointedly on your breath, noticing when your attention drifts, and being able to bring your attention back to breathing, that is meditation. You are meditating right now. You are training your mind to relax. You're training your mind to focus on what you want to focus on. You are in complete control of your thoughts, and you're teaching your mind to access its natural reservoir of happiness and relaxation. How wonderful. How wonderful that you are able to relax, even just a little bit, merely by focusing on your breath. So just for the next couple of seconds, continue to breathe in and out gently, naturally, and allow yourself to enjoy sitting here in this moment, breathing. Okay, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Hello, how we doing? Everyone still awake? It was pretty short breathing meditation, right? Again, we don't have to do anything crazy long. In fact, I don't recommend it when you're just starting because sometimes we can get restless, right? So if we do it in these kind of short little blocks, it can really stick. It seems manageable, and that's really what we're after. We want this kind of practice, this routine to feel manageable, right? Now, maybe you found that to be difficult, right? You're like, wow, my mind is really kind of going all over the place. I wasn't really able to stay focused on my breath exclusively for very long at all. That is very normal and to be expected, because when's the last time you did this? When's the last time you're like, hey, I have a great idea. I know what I want to do right now. I'm going to just sit quietly with my eyes closed, and I'm going to focus on my breathing. And then when I notice that I'm not, I'll bring my attention back to it. We never do it, right? We never practice this. We normally, and this is what our topic is today, we let our mind do whatever it wants, right? And so sometimes when we want our mind to do a specific thing, our mind is like, I don't think so. I'm going to do whatever I want. I'm going to think about all these different things, right? So it just takes time. It just takes practice. It's the same as, how we learn to walk, drive, anything we've ever done. It just requires some practice to familiarize your mind and body with the activity, right? Meditation is no different. Lisa, definitely needed that. And this class, after a day with an upsetting hour, not saying it was a bad day because I'm not letting that hour ruin my day. Oh, that's a very healthy outlook on having a bad day. I'm proud of you. That's awesome. So hopefully you were able to kind of maybe even just slightly relax a little bit, right? This is something that we can build upon, right? That's our goal. Start small, build upon it. This will get easier. You'll be able to settle in more, right? Right now we're cleaning the mirror just a little bit, right? Soon we'll get some Windex in there and it'll really get all shiny. I love mirrors. Okay, so we are going to move on to our topic, but if you have any questions about breathing meditation or kind of the meditation 101 that we just did, feel free to ask me. You can interrupt me at any time. It doesn't have to be pertaining to what I'm talking about in this moment exactly. Okay, so I mentioned before, a little kind of segue into our topic, that our mind seems to not always do what we want it to do. You think that's true? Does your mind always cooperate? No. The answer is no. In my experience, right? Your mind doesn't cooperate usually at all. And we can see it really plain as day when we're doing something like breathing meditation, because we are giving our mind an instruction. You're going to focus on your breath. And then our mind's like, no, I'm going to focus on that project coming up that I'm worried about. Or I'm going to focus on the thing Uncle Mike said to me 3 years ago that is still eating away at me. Right? Our mind seems to have a mind of its own, so to speak. Right? And this is not because our mind is kind of inherently distracted or disobedient or something like that. It is purely because of familiarity. We have let our mind do whatever it wants for however many years that we have been on the earth, right? The majority of each of our day, our mind is left to its own devices, and we're not looking to catch it and bring it back like we just did with breathing meditation. And so our mind has had a ton of practice doing what it wants. It has not had a ton of practice being single-pointedly focused on something. Mary, it can be my own worst enemy. Yeah. So, but it can also be your most powerful ally. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. How we can start to dictate where our focus is. This is one of the, it's not always the reason people come into meditation, at least, not kind of overtly, but this is one of the, at least that I've heard from students that I've taught, this is one of the biggest benefits, right? Being able to start to dictate where your focus is, what your mind is focusing on moment to moment, right? So essentially, our mind has developed a bit of a bad habit, right? It's like, a disobedient pet or something like that, right? Can you become obsessed with meditation being present too? And should you be, whoa, that is an awesome question, Summer. Wow. So the answer is yes. This is, all right, I'm taking a detour. Really good question. And actually, I've been wanting to do a class on this. So maybe you have sparked that in me. It's called attachment, right? So the word attachment, you can think of it like anytime we think we need something in order to be happy, right? Or to be okay, right? Sometimes that's a person, right? I need this person in my life to be okay. Sometimes that's a job or anything, right? And it can even be meditation. So yes, it is very important to keep a balance, right? We want to kind of stay in the middle. We don't want to be so obsessed with anything that we forget about all the other important things in our life. So really, really good question. It's a very deep topic, and the concept of attachment is hard to detect because sometimes it seems like, hey, well, that's not such a bad thing, or like, hey, maybe I should just go all in on this. So I'm going to do a class on that. So look out for that one in the next couple of weeks. Great question. Thank you. So where were we? Bad habit. Our mind's kind of developed a bad habit, right? So what is a habit, right? The definition's kind of in the word there, right? Habitual. We do it a lot, right? So we develop habits by doing something a lot, right? Now, normally when we think about habits, we think about physical habits, right? Checking the stove or putting your keys in the same spot every time, right? I do that. And what happens when my keys aren't there? I'm like, oh no. The keys are gone. They're always in that spot, right? It's a habit, right? We've done it so many times that's the spot. That's the spot. That's the spot. I even know where on the hook my key is. I don't even have to look anymore. I just grab it, right? That's how habitual it's become, right? Now, physical habits are actually mental habits in disguise. All right? And this is we're going to do a surface level of another very deep meditation topic, and that is mental actions and physical actions, right? So if we think about any sort of physical action, okay, lifting my arm. Now, there is a mental component to this, right? In fact, there is a necessary habitual line stepping. There is a mental component to me lifting my arm. In fact, it's necessary for me to have a mental action, lift arm, in order for my arm to lift, right? I'm not just sitting here like, my body is doing random motions, right? There's a mental thought. It happens very quickly. And so sometimes we don't think about it, but it's there. Same with something like giving money to somebody in need, right? There's a mental thought, I should give. And then we give money to someone in need, right? Again, this is a very deep topic. I don't have time to go into it in grand detail, but the point is that the root cause of habitual actions or habits rests in our mental actions. If we want to really drill down, or I guess up because of our mind, if we want to really kind of get to the root of the issue, we have to think about it from a mental standpoint, right? Cool. So this is good news. Maybe you're thinking it's not good news, but it is, because regardless of why you're here, I personally started meditation for anxiety. Maybe that's why you're here. And you want your mind to stop kind of like hijacking your thoughts and thinking about the things you're anxious about, right? Whatever your reason for being here is, we can work on it with the same methodology. We can work on it by focusing on the mental habit. All of the training we're going to do today, and all the training that you do with me, it transitions very well into multiple different things that we might want to work on in our life. Meditation is very efficient in that way. So if we like being efficient, this is a good thing to practice, right? So habits come from familiarization, right? We talked about anger before, right? And how it seems like it's really easy for us to get angry. It's kind of like a habit. We've trained our mind to kind of instantaneously get angry, right? Or I'll let you in on a little bit of my life. Like I said, I got into meditation for very bad, crippling anxiety. And one of the things that I have, struggled with from an anxiety standpoint is itching. Yeah, you heard that right. I said itching. Now you're sitting there and you probably are like, if you get an itch, you're probably like, boo, no big deal. I'll just move on with my life. Not me, right? I'm like, oh man, I hate itching. Like, how long is this going to last? I have to do a class right now. I can't be dealing with this, right? My mind starts to go down that rabbit hole, right? I wasn't born having a kind of aversion to itching, right? When I came into this world, I didn't even know what an itch was. And then even when I did have my first itch, it's a weird thing to think about. I was like, oh, what's this? And then I moved on probably. But at some point, my mind has made a connection. Itching equals bad, right? Labeled it, right? And then what happened? The next time I get an itch, itching equals bad. Next time, itching equals bad. Itching equals bad. It's a habit, right? And what we're doing with that is we're training our mind mentally to think of, in this case, itching as bad, right? Itching equals bad. So when we're thinking about how easy it is for our mind to kind of do its own thing, it's purely because we have let our mind do that for so long. Our mind thinks that's what we want it to do, right? And so we have to train it. We have to train it to do not that, really to do something else, right? And this is an interesting point, right? When we think about habits and, having our mind kind of distracted and being pulled in direction is a habit, we often try to unlearn the bad habit, right? But that's sort of like forgetting how to drive. If you've been doing something, if I was like, can you think you could forget how to drive? You'd be like, I don't know. I don't think so. I might lose some of my driving skills, but I don't think I'd completely forget, right? Because you've been driving for a very long time. And so it's a pretty solid, kind of understanding that your mind has, right? So instead of trying to unlearn things, we want to try to make new good habits. We want to create a new mental link, right? We want to start to choose what our mind is focused on. And when we're doing breathing meditation, like we just did, we're practicing this. It's built into breathing meditation, right? Because in breathing meditation, we are instructing our mind to focus on one thing. We're noticing when it's not focused on that one thing, and we're bringing it back. And at first, there will be resistance from your mind, mental resistance, right? But eventually, we will create this new link. And the new link is your mind's like, oh, yeah, it feels kind of good. Or even just, oh, okay, fine. This is normalized. I understand what's happening here. You would like to focus on one thing. Go ahead, right? It gives us kind of permission. So over time, just even by doing something as simple as breathing meditation, you can start to retrain your mind to focus on what you want to focus on. There's a lot you can do with that. There's a lot of benefit from just that. Not even going any deeper in meditation or anything else, right? So how do we go about doing this? Essentially, how do we go about retraining our mind? Again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm not stopping, so just interrupt me. There are 3 steps that I think are really important to think about and kind of familiarize ourselves with. What's that word? When thinking about how to retrain your mind with meditation, right? So, step 1. We kind of talked about it a little bit, but we have to recognize that this is possible, right? If we don't think that it's possible for us to kind of dictate where our thoughts are, well, we're not going to put a lot of effort into it because we think it's a kind of dead end, right? So recognizing that this is possible is super important. And part of this comes from just thinking about it like we just did. It's something sometimes called contemplation more officially, but we can think about, okay, logically, something like tying my shoe. I didn't know how to tie my shoe. Now I know how to tie my shoe. I learned it from, doing it repeatedly. Cool, right? I can do that for anything. It's not like my mind is able to learn some things and not. Your mind is able to learn. Your mind doesn't pick sides, right? Your mind is ready to learn and become familiar with whatever you want to teach it with just a little bit of practice, right? So we can think about that. We can kind of logically reason with ourselves that, hey, I have become familiar with my mind has become familiar with a lot of things in my life. There's no reason why I can't become familiar with this thing that I would like to have it become familiar with, whether that's not being pulled by anxiety or whatever, right? Huge important step, right? Conscious versus subconscious. Yeah. And sometimes our kind of recognition of our ability to do this is maybe conscious is not exactly the word that I would use here, but I guess it is kind of like that. Like there's an intellectual understanding. Yeah, I know I can do this. Like I know it's possible for my mind to become familiar with something, right? But then like at a subconscious level, right? Maybe we don't fully believe it, right? And we want to hit that part. We want to, at our subconscious, we want to be so sure that this is possible that the idea that it's not is not even an idea for us, right? Very cool. So recognizing that this is possible, very important. Step 2, understanding the benefits, right? Now, if you believe something is very valuable, you would like to obtain it, right? If I were to present to you 2 items and in my left hand, I have a straw. And in my right hand, stage right, I have a diamond. Which are you going to choose? Right? You probably choose a diamond, right? Because you're like, oh, a diamond, that's really valuable. Straw, it has value, but not like a diamond, right? So we want this idea of us trying to retrain our mind to be okay with focusing on what we want to focus on. We want to view that as if it were a diamond. We want to see the value in it so much that even just thinking about it, it's like, oh man, I'd like that, right? We just think about a diamond. You're like, oh yeah, I'd like that, right? So our past, as you stated, creates habits. Comfort zone takes work to change. Yeah, and patience is a huge aspect of this. Look, I get it. We want things fixed fast. I do too. Meditation can completely change your life. It is a slow burn, and it takes time to practice. And everyone's gonna kind of move at different speeds, and that's okay, right? That's okay. Now's a great time to start. Right. So we want to understand the benefits of doing this, right? Again, part of this is using contemplation. And we're going to do a contemplation together on this so you can kind of see what that's like. But instead of just recognizing that it's possible, we want to recognize that it's possible. And then we want to be like, okay, how would my life be different if I could do this? How would my life be different if I could dictate where my focus is moment to moment? That I wasn't getting pulled. My mind wasn't pulling me into the realm of anxiety or pulling me into the realm of regret, unless I wanted to be there, right? What if I was able to choose where my mind was, right? And I'm not saying that thinking about the future or past or whatever isn't beneficial. It can be very beneficial, but you should have that choice. It should be your choice if you're focusing on that or not your mind. Right? That's kind of what we're getting at, right? So we recognize that it's possible. We understand the benefits of doing this, and then we got to practice, all right? We got to practice. And Lori, I hate repeating and want to move on and be free. So this, yes, okay. So this is kind of that quick fix mentality, right? We don't want to do something that's a slow burn. We want it to be done with so we can move on. Exactly, right? But we think about something like, I'll use my itching example again, right? Even though I know that might be weird to you. I have dealt with this for so long that it is very difficult for me to think of itching as neutral, which you probably think of itching as neutral. Whatever, right? But for me, it's very difficult because my mind is so familiar with it being bad, right? And think about all the times that I have thought that over and over and over again. It's not just going to be, I'm not just going to be like, hey, guess what? It's not bad. And my mind's like, oh, cool, right? It's going to take some time. It's going to take some repetition, right? But I think you'll find that you'll start to see some benefits with meditation, even just being able to relax a little bit with breathing meditation. It definitely starts to come a little quicker than people think when they start out, right? Cool. That's a good comment. Thank you. Okay. So the third step after we recognize that it's possible, understand the benefits, we got to do it. We got to practice, right? And like Lori was saying, we don't want to repeat it, but we have to. Right? We have to make it habitual. This new good habit of being able to choose where our mind is, we need to make it a habit. We need to familiarize our mind with it. So a couple of things that are helpful here in terms of practicing this is setting an intention for the day, right? And we hear that word intention. What does it mean? Blah, blah, blah. I like to think of intention as a compass. You ever use a compass? Now we have GPS, so we don't really need a compass. But a compass, it points you in the general direction that you want to go. It's not saying, okay, now you're going to go left and then right and then 3 blocks up. It's not saying that exactly, but it's a reminder, hey, you're a little off course. Let's get back on, right? So this is how I view intention and intention setting, right? If we set an intention in the morning, I am going to, when I'm at work, I'm going to focus on this project that I'm doing for the hour of 10 to 10:30, right? And whenever I notice my mind getting distracted or like, boop, there's an email, I'm like, oh, no, I'm focusing on my project, right? That's our intention for the day. So then if we go to work and right, we're sitting down, we started and we start to drift off and we're thinking about other things, we're going to be like, oh, it's a little reminder. It's like our compass, like, hey, get back on course. Get back on course to your intention for the day. Cool. Summer, meditation has helped me stay in the present and has been a game changer. But some addictions are hard to let go still. Hoping with time I can choose more wisely. So yeah, and addiction, right? And you can be addicted to a lot of different things, is familiarization, habitual, right? So the more we do one thing, the easier it starts to flow to us. And that happens for good and for bad. So yeah, the concept of meditation, retraining your mind to become familiar with whatever you want to, works really well for addiction. I've actually worked with a lot of people with that. But it does take time. Not because you're incapable. You're very capable, but just because for however long this has been going on, your mind is very familiar with this, and we need to kind of teach it a new trick. We're going to teach it a new trick, right? It takes a while, right? Cool. Thank you for that comment. Okay, so setting an intention, good thing to try in the morning. Why not? Give it a shot. Also, another good tip. We did this a little bit in our meditation before, checking in, right? This is called mindfulness. Kind of actively monitoring what our mind is doing. Why? So we can catch our mind in the act earlier on, right? Normally, our mind is way down the road of anxiety or something like that. And, we can barely even see it. It's so far down that rabbit hole. So by checking in, and I suggest maybe doing like an alarm on your phone or something, and when that alarm goes off, just kind of check in and be like, oh, how am I feeling right now? This is a very good habit to develop because it is teaching you mindfulness. It is teaching you to recognize what's going on in your mind earlier on. And you're going to be able to manage things better the earlier on you detect them. Cool? Lisa, I set an intention every morning, but lose it when, like earlier today, something upsets me and I get angry. I guess I need to reset my intention throughout the day. Yeah. So we can think about resetting our intention as like this compass, right? Now we got to look at the compass. We're out in the woods or something, and we have this compass on us, and we don't look at it. We're not gonna. I guess we hope we go in the right direction, right? So every once in a while, we got to look at it. And that's where, just like, oh, you're 3 steps ahead of me, Lisa. That's where the checking comes in, right? So for you, maybe what you want to do is set a little alarm, check in and be like, have I been kind of true to the intention that I set this morning, right? If not, let's get back on track, right? No judgment, doesn't matter, right? Just like when we're meditating, doesn't matter how many times you get distracted. We just bring our attention back. Really good. Lori, thank you. That means a lot to me. I'm glad you're having a good experience. Okay. So we're setting the intention. We're checking in with ourselves, right? And then we need some patience. Not a word we always like, but we need to kind of understand that this is a slow burn. It's going to take time. Everyone kind of goes at different speeds. Right? Some people might figure it all out earlier. Some people might figure it out a little bit later. It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. If we keep practicing this, we will see benefits, right? That's what we have to tell ourselves. So even if we sit down and we do a meditation and we're super distracted, we're thinking about how uncomfortable we are and our mind's super anxious, it's okay, right? You're still practicing. Just like if you were training to run a marathon, not every day that you trained you're going to feel amazing, right? Some days you're going to feel very tired and some days you're going to feel like your knee hurts or something. But it's still training, right? You're still training towards this goal, right? And the goal here is to start to be able to take back control of what we're thinking about moment to moment. Cool? Sound good? Any questions on that? If not, we're going to do a short meditation / contemplation on this. It'll be pretty similar to what we just did. So kind of a full, I'm using a lot of quotes today, air quotes. A full meditation is breathing meditation to relax our mind, right? Kind of clear away all that clutter. And then we're going to purposefully use that more relaxed mind to look at something, to think about something, to contemplate something, right? It's kind of contemplation and meditation go hand in hand, right? Cool. Okay, so let's do that now. You just got to kind of follow along with what I'm saying, just like we did before. It's just going to be a little bit longer, not much. You can do it. I believe in you. So make sure you are comfortable. If you were not comfortable last time, this is a great time to change. Get a little cushion. Put it under your chair, under your seat. Not under your chair. That wouldn't do anything for you. Okay. And you can go ahead and close your eyes, and we're going to do about a 7-minute meditation together. Okay. Very quickly, just check in with yourself. Once again, how are you feeling now? In this moment. This exact moment. We're not comparing it to before. We're not doing anything about it. We're just noticing what our mind is up to. We now know why this is so important. Because this trains us to catch our mind before it goes too far down the rabbit hole. And having checked in, you can once again turn your attention to your breath. In, out, gently, naturally. We're making a choice. You could say we're setting an intention. And our intention is to focus single-pointedly on our breath, following each moment of each breath. And we can check in with ourselves again and see, are we still focused on our breath right now? Be honest with yourself. Have you drifted a bit? If so, no big deal. Just gently guide your attention back to breathing. In, out, gently, naturally. Allow yourself to relax. Give yourself permission to enjoy sitting here. Keep bringing your attention back to your breath as many times as you need to. As you start to really plug into your breathing, start to be fully present with each breath, you may start to notice some things about breathing that you hadn't really thought about before. Maybe you're noticing how the air, it feels cool temperature-wise each time you breathe in. And that same air, it feels warmer each time you breathe out. Or maybe you're noticing your body being an active participant in your breath. Your shoulders rising, falling, chest expanding, contracting. Every aspect of you breathing as one, in and out. Developing the ability to choose to focus on something single-pointedly has a hidden benefit. We start to find some subtle joys in the activity that we're focused on. Right now, you are starting to enjoy breathing. How wonderful. How wonderful that you are able to enjoy something as simple and accessible as breathing in and out, gently, naturally. And now we'll do just a short contemplation. You can just enjoy sitting there, relaxing, and pay attention to what I'm saying. That's all. We can teach our mind anything. We've done it before. Walking comes very easily to us, but there was a time when that was not the case. We taught our body, our mind to walk. It took time, it took practice. But we've now done it so much that walking comes naturally to us. We don't have to think about walking. We just walk. Why would learning anything else act differently than that? The way in which we learn doesn't change from topic to topic. It just requires repetition, a little bit of patience. And so, while right now it may seem difficult to dictate where your focus is, maybe it seems like your mind has a mind of its own and you're just along for the ride. That is purely because we have let our mind do that for so long that it's become familiar with that. It thinks that's the norm. But we can teach our mind not only to be okay with focusing on what we want to focus on, but to look for it, but to really want to focus single-pointedly on something. It is possible. It is very, very possible. So just for the next couple of seconds, I'd like you to think about what that would mean to you. What would it mean for your day, for your relationships, for your life, if you could start to be able to be in charge of your thoughts, to choose what you want to focus on, when you want to focus on it, if you could become familiar with all of those wonderful qualities that you want to become familiar with. Think about how that would change your life. And let that right there be the motivation you need to put this into practice. Okay, when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Well done. So, pretty similar. We started similar anyway to what we did before. We relaxed our mind with some breathing meditation, and then we did what I would call a contemplation, which is just thinking. So, sometimes you're like, oh, contemplation. Oh, it's like I'm a philosopher. We're just thinking, but we're thinking with a level of clarity that we normally wouldn't have if our mind was very agitated. That's kind of the concept of the relationship between meditation and contemplation, right? So we're relaxing our mind a little bit, and then we're going to think about something. And what we were thinking about is what we talked about today, that there's proof that we have been able to train our mind to do many things in our life. There's no reason that we can't train it to do something else that we want to do it, right? In this case, training our mind to be okay with focusing on what we want to focus on. And then we thought about the benefits of it, right? So that was kind of the step 2. How would this impact my life? Right? We want to view this goal as a diamond. We want to obtain it. We want to really want to obtain it. We want to recognize how useful it would be for us. Right? Cool? How are we feeling? Hopefully you're feeling pretty good. So if you had fun, or if you were like, oh, that was kind of interesting, or whatever, if you enjoyed this class, I encourage you to come back. I do this every week, barring some event I have to go to. And we talk about a different topic each week. Next week, I'm going to do one on gratitude, very timely for Thanksgiving holiday. So come on back. And if you did enjoy this, subscribing to my YouTube channel is a huge help to me. It's just a simple click, and then, as those accumulate, the powers that be at Google are like, oh, the people like this. And then, I surface in search and stuff like that. It's a layman's explanation of it. I don't understand it that much, but it is extremely beneficial to me. So if you're comfortable doing that, that would mean a lot to me. I saw a couple people did during the live stream, and I appreciate that a lot. Also, if you do that, you get notifications when I'm going live. So if you forget, boom, there you go. You're reminded. It's a little like built-in mindfulness check. And then if you're really into meditation, and you think this would be a good thing for you and you want to kind of pursue it more, I do one-on-one classes. So we can focus on whatever you want. Maybe you're here for anxiety, just like I was. We can focus on that exclusively. And I do them over Zoom. It's very casual. I'm a very laid-back person. So if that's interesting to you, you can just email me and we'll find a time that's appropriate. I'll put my email in the chat now. And I must concentrate on this so I don't make spelling mistakes. Looks pretty good. Hopefully that's correct. Okay. Let me catch up. Lori, when I was breathing, I was thinking about how similar it is to waves rolling into the beach gently. Lori, amazing, amazing. Okay. So Lori, this is kind of, some people, are you a visual learner? Right? We're all different learners. There's different kind of styles of meditation. And depending on kind of the type of learner you are, sometimes you might gravitate to one or the other. So this is a really cool thing that you've kind of realized here, right? You are a visual learner. Okay. So you've made your mind has made a mental connection, like breathing is like the waves. Breathing is like the waves. So what you can do is you can meditate on waves, like a visualization if you want, right? You can just kind of picture the waves rolling up and down, crests and falling, the gentle flow of the ocean. And then whenever you notice your mind not thinking about that, bring your attention back. Doesn't matter, right? You're just using this kind of visualization as your focal point instead of your breath, right? So you can play with that a little bit, which is kind of cool. And it's interesting that you say the waves rolling gently on the beach. This is a very meditators love the ocean as an analogy, right? And it's used a lot. You've probably heard me use it a lot. But yes, your breath, kind of rolling in and out. It's very similar to the waves. It's a great visualization. So if you are a visual learner, or you just love the beach, it's a different kind of way you can go about doing this, and it's just as good as any other. Right? Awesome. Thank you guys for being here. Great class as always. You guys are the best. Super excited to see how much the channel has grown. So everyone that has subscribed, that comes here every week, anyone that's donated, you guys are amazing. You're the reason I'm able to do this, and thank you for being here. Thank you for taking time out of your day to be here and to learn something new. So hopefully I get to see y'all next week. All right. I know it's a busy week. We got Thanksgiving. So if you can't make it, don't worry. All my classes that I do on YouTube are there archived, so you can check it out after the fact too. All right. All right. Take care.